going to invite the Vice-Chancellor, who's going to sing. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand.
Chancellor, ladies and gentlemen, the Chancellor persists in trying to persuade me to sing, and I can assure you that is not something that he or any of you would like me to do. So thank you again for the invocation, Chancellor, but it's not going to happen today, and hopefully never, for all your sakes. So it is wonderful to be here and to welcome you, and particularly to have Christina and Philip here, the children of John and Joan Lincoln. I hope that your parents would be very proud of what this university is today, and it's just delightful to have you both here. So thank you both for being here with us today. And as the Chancellor's referred, this has been quite a year in terms of celebrating the Golden Jubilee of Macquarie University. We've looked back at the same time as we look forward, and in looking back we've seen those of us who were not here and who were in our first decade of life when this university was founded, and seen some of the imagery outside of what this site was like in the early days. And in looking back, we've also rekindled our beliefs around the namesake of this university, Macquarie University. As the Chancellor, if you have a chance to be at graduation ceremonies, reminds the graduates of the namesake of this university, Macquarie University, after Lachlan Macquarie, the 5th colonial governor of the early colony, and reminds those students that while Macquarie was known as a builder in the history books don't record as well the accord he is due as really being the person who got the early colony on its feet with as a civil society, with particularly the issues around, as Michael points out to the new graduates, the removal of the distinction between a free man and a freed man, and thereby establishing, some of us would like to believe, the early order of Australia that persists today as an egalitarian society characterised by openness and fairness to all who come to these shores, whether they are born on these shores or not, and whatever their background is. So we've certainly looked back to the founding traditions of Macquarie University and our namesake. We've had a number of events during the year, and it's been my extraordinary privilege to see a number of you and other friends of the university at morning teas for the original classes, to be with the Chancellor as we buried a time capsule over on the central courtyard of the university with some icons of university life today, preserved to be unlocked out of a hermetically sealed device 50 years from this year, and to having a wonderful opportunity with some of you last week able to attend the gala event downtown, just a few yards from Mrs. Macquarie's chair, looking out over the Opera House and the magnificent skyline of Sydney, to celebrate the 50th anniversary in a different way. We have produced a wonderful book which, if you haven't received it and would like to receive, we can make that happen, which describes some of the research of this university, 50 research stories over the last 50 years, a magnificent volume. And we do stand very proud in that tradition of not only teaching and learning, and the number of graduates that we have seen go by and shake the Chancellor's hands over time. As Michael indicated, 150,000 of them now spread around the world doing wonderful work. If I pause for a moment and think about the students of this university and the staff of the university, there's so many stories one could tell about the wonderful work going on here. I had the opportunity recently to go and open new facilities being opened for our engineering program in the university. We've only had a true engineering program for a small number of years, and we've built some magnificent teaching and research facilities in one of the science buildings for the engineering program. And I was a little fearful as I was asked to cut a ribbon to open this engineering facility, because the ribbon was to be cut by a pair of scissors loaded on a robot. that I had to push a button remotely from this robot to watch a pair of, I'm told, titanium scissors cut the ribbon opening the engineering facility, which was a great treat for me. But the robot part of that reminds me of a story about the wonderful work that goes on in the back corridors of this university, which is about deep connection of Macquarie University far beyond our own boundaries. Some of you will remember that when I first addressed this august society, I talked a little bit about my own origins, having been born in the outback of Australia in the tiny community of Ivanhoe, which currently has a population of 156, and a school with 39 students from K to 12. Well, I was over opening the engineering and robotic facility, and through the good works of our engineering professors and David's and his team's work, Macquarie University is the site for Australia of a program called the FIRST, all capitals, robotics program, which is an annual challenge where university students and professors work with high school students to design robots to meet a challenge in a defined time. And the one last year was to design a robot, and this is remarkable, that could take a basketball and throw it through a hole some distance in the wall far away from the robot. The year before was to get a frisbee to land in a certain place. And this is a challenge that goes on around the world, and this university is the host of the FIRST robotics program, as it's called, from the United States for Australia. One of the wonderful things that our students here, engineering students and the professors do, is work with students from high schools near and far. So last year, as a part of a Google-funded program, we took this FIRST robotics program to offer it to a school in remote Northern Territory. So those students would have a chance to participate in something as equally as students from neighbouring high school next door. Without any connection to me at all, there was a young man at a training program for this year, whom I learned about, who was here to take part in robotics training, to take it back to his school, which happens to be the Ivanhoe Central School. So in February next year, I am going back to where I was born, that I have not been to for a long, long while, with the robotics team from Macquarie University, to work with some of the older students in this school, with a few dozen students, to get them inducted so they can be brought down to Sydney and take part in the FIRST robotic challenge. I think it's just wonderful, the creative enterprise that goes on in this university between the professors and the students in teaching and learning and in research. Just remarkable. And there are many stories I could recount of the wonderful things I find out as I wander around this university every day and every week. As some of you heard the other evening, we've regathered our research programming of the university around some core themes, where all of the research going forward for the university will be gathered around 5 main themes. So healthy people, resilient societies, prosperous economies, innovative technologies, and a secure planet. Everything we do about research going forward will be grouped under those so we can put focus and purpose into our research going forward, and we have deeply consulted across the university to achieve that. Our research accomplishments, amazing during the last 12 months. We have Professor Ian Paulson, one of the most cited researchers in the biological sciences in the world, announced as an ARC Laureate Fellow. And Professor Paulson will be leading Australia's only site in a global program to make the world's first artificial yeast in synthetic biology, where the different chromosomes that make up the yeast cell are being synthesized in different universities around the world, and they will be aggregated to create the world's first synthetically made yeast. Remarkable science, tremendous potential for medicine down the line, a whole raft of difficult ethical questions which we have our ethics folks involved in and guiding and advising about, but wonderful to be part of a university which can do those sort of things. Wonderful to have Professor Mark Westerby, an environmental ecologist, named just last week as New South Wales Scientist of the Year. Wonderful also to have a mixed clinical service program and research program around delivering mental health services online, particularly for rural and remote Australia. Oversubscribed as part of a large government contract, we can't keep up with the demand for providing mental health services with a research component to folks who simply can't access those services, either because they are not mobile themselves, able to leave their own homes, or because they have concerns about privacy, or because they live in regional, rural and remote Australia. The hospital is powering along. We've created a new full faculty of medicine and health sciences. One of the things that we rekindled around during this, the 50th anniversary of the founding of Macquarie University, was to think about how we represent ourselves inside and far beyond the university. And as we did this work and as we thought about the telling of the Macquarie University story, there was a gentle murmuring to start with, followed by a crescendo towards a groundswell for us to look at the mark of the university. You see the mark of the university here. Many of you have, and some will receive today, the lapel pin, which will become a collector's piece because it will have existed for a small number of years, because we are and have been directed towards by a lot of support, particularly from alumni, recapturing the lighthouse as a part of the mark of the university. A university in many ways is a metaphoric lighthouse, being a light on the hill, showing the way from firm ground into uncertain waters beyond the shoreline. And I like to think that in many ways a university as a lighthouse is a mentor for our students and for our staff. And I'm reminded of the wonderful words of Marion Wright Edelman in the United States, who writes about lantern and lighthouse and mentorship, being about lanterns in my life, the mentors of her life, who illumined dark and uncertain paths, calmed and stilled debilitating fears with encouraging words, wise lessons, gentle nudges, firm touches, and faithful actions along the journey of life. If we can be a university that lives true to that aspiration, to help our students go out into the world, and knowing that they always have a solid base here to face whatever is unknown in their life going forward, I think we will be proud to have reclaimed the lighthouse as a metaphor for Macquarie University. It's wonderful to have you all here today. Thank you again for being here.